What if every human consciousness has always been alone? We live surrounded by people, voices, crowds, messages, conversations, relationships. And yet, there is something no human being has ever truly crossed. The distance between one consciousness and another. You have never experienced another person's pain. Not directly. You can observe behavior, hear words, see tears, watch silence.
But the experience itself never leaves the consciousness where it exists.
No matter how precisely someone describes suffering, you never truly feel their suffering itself. You only construct an interpretation of it inside your own mind. And the same is true for joy, love, fear, loneliness, regret. Every human experience exists privately within consciousness. And perhaps human beings have always lived behind invisible walls. In philosophy, there is a word for this: qualia. The raw, subjective feeling of experience itself. The redness of red, the pain of pain, the taste of coffee, the feeling of nostalgia late at night. Qualia is not merely information. It is what experience feels like from the inside. And strangely, science can describe the mechanisms of perception without ever touching the experience itself. Neuroscience can explain light wavelengths, retinal processing, neural activity, and visual cortex computation. But none of those explanations contain the actual feeling of seeing blue. No scientific equation has ever captured what sadness feels like. And no brain scan has ever revealed the experience itself, because subjective experience only exists from the first-person perspective. And this creates a strange limitation within human existence. Language can transmit information, but it cannot fully transmit experience. You can describe pain, but description is not pain itself. You can describe love, but words never contain the feeling itself. When someone says, "I am afraid," you do not experience their fear directly. You generate your own internal simulation of what those words might mean. And perhaps this is why humans so often feel misunderstood. Because consciousness cannot be copied from one mind into another. No sentence has ever fully transferred a human experience. And maybe it never can. This leads to an even stranger question. How do you know other consciousnesses actually exist? You never directly experience another mind. You only observe behavior, speech, movement, facial expressions. But consciousness itself is invisible. You assume other humans possess an inner world like your own, but you never truly witness it. This is known in philosophy as the problem of other minds. And once you notice it, it becomes impossible to completely escape. Because every human being could simply be behavior without experience. A perfect biological machine acting conscious without actually feeling anything. And there is no absolute way to prove otherwise. Perhaps every consciousness exists alone inside itself, trapped within its own perspective. You will never directly see through another person's eyes. You will never directly feel their memories. You will never fully enter their inner world. And no matter how deeply humans love one another, a distance always remains. A silent separation between conscious beings. Perhaps this is why loneliness feels so profound. Because consciousness itself may be fundamentally isolated. Not socially, but ontologically. And yet, human beings continue trying to reach one another. In crowded cities, millions of consciousnesses pass beside each other every day, each carrying memories, fears, dreams, regrets, private universes. And no one can fully enter the world inside another mind. A person sitting silently on a train at night may contain an entire invisible universe of experience. But to everyone else, they are only a face in the crowd. And perhaps that is one of the strangest things about human existence. That every ordinary person contains an unseen interior reality. A world that no one else will ever fully experience. And still, humans continue trying. Through conversation, through music, through art, through touch, through stories. Perhaps all human culture is an attempt to bridge the distance between consciousnesses. A song says, "Feel what I feel." A painting says, "See what I see." A poem says, "Enter my inner world." And maybe love itself is the desire to no longer remain alone inside consciousness. But even in love, complete union never fully arrives. Because subjective experience always remains first person. And perhaps this reveals something profound. Consciousness is strange because it cannot fully become an external object. You can observe a brain, but not experience itself. You can measure neurons, but not the feeling of being. Consciousness always exists from within as pure subjectivity, Perhaps that is why consciousness feels almost transcendent. Because, unlike physical objects, experience cannot simply be observed from the outside. It can only be lived. And maybe this is why human beings will always remain partially mysterious to one another. Not because we fail to communicate enough, but because consciousness itself is inherently private. Perhaps the tragedy of consciousness is that every mind exists alone. And perhaps its beauty is that humans continue trying to reach each other anyway.